Okay, welcome back. We are discussing the changes, the amendments which have been brought about by the government via the finance bill, 40 of them. The specific one we are focusing on, of course, is the overhaul of tribunals. We have with us Mr. Mohan Parasaran, Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court, Somsekhar Sundaran. Sundaresan. He's one of the top securities lawyers in the country. And we also have Mr. Dhanendra Kumar, the first chairman of the Competition Commission of India. Mr. Kumar, if I can come to you first, sir. You heard Mr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi make some of those points. Do you agree with them, or do you think he's kind of sort of going too far in terms of the criticism with regards to how tribunals will function under the new regime?
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you on the panel. Let me share my thoughts with you. My reservations on this amendment actually emanates not really either from the intention or constitutionality. I'm sure the intention must be very, very good, and it might result in actual economy in expenditure and maybe rationalization in the service conditions and so on. But my reservation actually emanates from the impact of this amendment on the evolution and jurisprudence which we are all looking for under the Competition Act. The Competition Act enforcement began in 2009, and we are just about 7 or 8 years old in terms of enforcement. And a number of issues are yet to be finally decided by the appellate courts and by the Supreme Court. It is in this context I feel that a specialized body like the appellate tribunal in competition arena would be extremely useful. If we look at the initial judgment in the Brahmdatt case of 2005 by the Supreme Court, the intention at that time clearly was to set up a separate judicial body for a judicial review of the decisions of the expert body, the Competition Commission. And this judicial body was set up under the Competition Appellate Tribunal. And if we look at the scheme of things under the Competition Act in Section 53 and subsequently various clauses under that, it was clearly stipulated that the Appellate Tribunal would be looking into the appeals and also on the quantum of compensation.
Right. Mr. Kumar, so you are alluding to competence, right? The development of jurisprudence will not be possible. I mean, if you actually merge these tribunals. Got the point. So I just want to get first thoughts in from, Mr. Parasaran and Mr. Sundaresan as well. Mr. Parasaran, if you could go first, sir. What are your reservations and what do you make about the whole thing?
See, I feel that I think we are complicating the entire thing. As Dr. Singhvi was saying, I think the core competence of the members who are going to be part of these tribunals, I think I really suspect whether members of the NCLAT would be able to actually deal with complex issues which are going to arise in a competition matter. And already actually we are facing so much of infrastructural problems in the NCLT and NCLAT with lots of actually litigation in their present setup and jurisdiction. And added to that, I think if you are going to actually give them this sort of a jurisdiction without actually improving infrastructure and also actually expertise, I think it's not going to give a good signal to investors.
Got it. Mr. Sundaresan, if you can come in for first thoughts. You know, the government's argument in one way is that this is going to reduce pendency of cases at various tribunals. Do you think that's true?
So I think you're just aggregating activities across tribunals into individual vehicles. I mean, I think the point Mr. Parasaran was making earlier needs to be elaborated upon a little more. Look, competency in a bench is not pre-endowed. It's gathered, it's with experience, it's gained with experience of hearing more and more matters of a like nature over time. So if you've been hearing cases relating to securities law or competition law for a good degree of time, you start thinking, breathing, living the concepts of that law. Now that's the point in specialization. Now if you change that specialization and make it into a generalized sort of platform. And I don't mean to comment about any singular tribunal in particular, but one does need to remember that even if you want to agglomerate everything into one tribunal, then potentially you have to start thinking of administrative reform within the tribunal and create sub-benches, which will again be specialized in specific areas of law. I mean, without specialized benches,
right,
there is little point in merging these tribunals into one
Mr.
another.
Sundaresan,
as Mr. Parasaran rightly says, the infrastructural botlennecks.
Yes. Was the specialization...
Sorry, the process reform is very important. Each of these tribunals has...
my point was specialization getting developed till now? I mean, you know, under the earlier regime. Was it... Because, you know, judges were picked after retirement. I mean, maybe...
Of course, because
yes,
if
go on.
No, that's fine. You don't need, as I said, wisdom in an area of law or specialization in a branch of law, even among lawyers, it's not pre-endowed, you're not born with it. But when you deal with that same science over and over again, day after day, you build a specialization, a nodding acquaintance becomes expertise. That's how expertise and specialization builds up. Now, all of us lawyers, we all think each of us can do everything that comes our way. And specialists think that we will pick a subject and do that well. And that's how even in the judiciary, a special tribunal was envisaged so that a bunch of judges you may pick, they may be retired as general judges, but they build that specialization and build that expertise in a 3 to 5 year time frame. It becomes a very robust platform. That has been disturbed now.
Mr. Parasaran, 2 questions to you. One, how were judges on these tribunals, members on these tribunals picked till now? What is the difference which these changes or these amendments will bring about? And second, is this entire thing going to be challenged in court, sir? I mean, there is the issue, of course, in terms of specifics, but also the fact that these changes have been brought via the finance bill. Both points, sir.
See, as far as these tribunals are concerned, as far as the compact is concerned, it is actually picked up by a committee comprising of the Chief Justice of India or his nominee and comprising of other bureaucrats, namely the law secretary or the concerned department secretary. But the safeguard is there is the Chief Justice of India or his nominee.
Okay. And that will change now?
And that, I think, they are not tinkering with that.
But as Mr. Abhishek Manu Singhi pointed out, they are giving themselves the powers to frame the rules with regards to appointment, removal, etc., right?
If they do that, that will run counter to the law declared by the Honorable Supreme Court in at least 3 or 4 judgments.
Right. Second point, are these this entire matter going to be challenged in front of the court? Is somebody going to take it up?
I think it will be challenged. I think if they take away the role of the judiciary in the appointment of members and also possibly the chairperson, then it will certainly actually face a judicial challenge.
We are completely out of time, gentlemen. It's a subject which we can sort of go on about in a very fascinating and vast subject, but we'll wrap this up here. Gentlemen, thank you very much, Mr. Mohan Parasaran, Mr. Somsekhar Sundaresan, and Mr. Dhanendra Kumar for joining us on this special show. So the last word definitely has not been said. As Mr. Parasaran pointed out, if the judiciary's powers are curtailed upon or are taken away, be sure this will be challenged in the courts. Thanks very much for watching.